In 2024, during a major strategic reshaping, the U.S. Marine Corps brought back one of its most technical aviation units, HMLA-169. Few ever witness what it really looks like when a squadron is reborn, when aircraft arrive, get stripped down, inspected, and prepared for their very first operational cycle. Here, every sensor, every mounting rail, every rotor blade is checked with absolute precision before the first flight. The first inspection cycle begins with a full structural review of every AH-1Z Viper assigned to the squadron. Technicians check airframe integrity, electrical connections, and hydraulic systems. Officers oversee the process, logging rotor vibration patterns and engine responses. This ensures every aircraft enters its new operational phase fully inside USMC safety standards. The teams move in perfect sync, following documented, audited procedures tested over decades.
What?
With the initial checks complete, maintenance crews move on to electronic systems. Radar, infrared cameras, and the nose-mounted targeting unit go through calibration tests. This confirms that every sensor is aligned and ready for precise training missions. All data is logged in digital maintenance records, allowing continuous monitoring from day one. It's a critical phase. Equipment reliability is the backbone of the squadron's entire training cycle. Once the electronic systems are cleared, the teams begin inspecting the training weapons. Rails are aligned, inert hydro rockets are mounted, and the M197 cannon receives a full mechanical check. Even though the weapons are non-lethal for these drills, they're treated exactly like operational ordnance. Strict safety protocols guide every step, reducing risk and ensuring that each aircraft performs exactly as expected during live-fire exercises. With training ordnance in place, pilots gather to review routes, emergency procedures, and navigation protocols. Officers present simulated flight paths and highlight key features of the training area. Communication drills ensure Vipers and Venoms stay perfectly coordinated once airborne. This stage prepares the crews for their first taxi tests and sets the rhythm for the entire day's operations. fire up for their first activation tests. Technicians track oil pressure, turbine temperature, and rotor vibration. Pilots monitor cockpit indicators as electrical systems stabilize. This step confirms mechanical readiness before any ground movement begins. The data captured here will help fine-tune performance limits over the next few hours. With engines running steady, crews begin the pre-taxi checklist. They test cyclic controls, pedal response, and the collective. Outside, ground teams watch vibration patterns and check for leaks or anomalies. Communication happens through hand signals, following USMC rotor operation safety rules. This is the final checkpoint before heading to the tactical launch area. The AH-1Z begins rolling toward the takeoff line. Ground crews position lighted wands to mark the safe route. The pilot keeps speed low to limit rotor wash over the support teams. This movement tests directional control, brake response, and rotor stability in open air. It's the last step before the day's first tactical liftoff. The aircraft reaches its holding point for takeoff. Pilots run their final checklist: fuel levels, emergency procedures, system responses. Weather conditions are confirmed with the tower to guarantee a safe climb. This moment ties together every previous step and marks the beginning of the squadron's first operational training flights in its new activation cycle. The AH-1Z lifts off and hovers low over the apron, testing stability. Pilots watch torque, altitude, and vertical speed while fine-tuning the collective. The aircraft slides laterally to confirm control response. Behind it, a second Viper mirrors the maneuver, forming the initial training formation. This confirms both aircraft are ready to head for the desert range. The Vipers climb into formation, leaving the base behind as their instruments take over the navigation load. Weapons officers adjust targeting systems and verify the status of each training rocket. The data from today's runs will help refine the HMLA-169's tactics for months to come. For anyone who follows modern military aviation and wants to understand how doctrine becomes real-world action, watching these routines up close is essential. As the Vipers move out, a UH-1Y Venom climbs to a higher orbit, acting as an overwatch and support platform. Its optical sensors scan the entry corridor of the range, marking key reference points. This coordination allows the HMLA-169 to train combined attack and observation procedures. All targets are inert and set up in a fully controlled range zone. As the Vipers move out, a UH-1Y Venom climbs to a higher orbit, acting as an overwatch and support platform. Its optical sensors scan the entry corridor of the range, marking key reference points. This coordination allows the HMLA-169 to train combined attack and observation procedures. All targets are inert and set up in a fully controlled range zone. On the first pass, the Vipers perform dry runs with no firing, lining up visual references and approach points. Pilots verify the ideal speeds and altitudes for later attacks. Weapons officers memorize target positions and check time on target windows. These dry runs are essential. They lock in approach angles and ensure precise, safe weapon employment when the real training begins. With reconnaissance passes complete, the Vipers prepare for their first live-fire training with Hydra rockets. Weapons officers confirm ballistics profiles and training round status. Doctrine calls for controlled, alternating attack runs, allowing each aircraft to fire in sequence. Ground sensors and range cameras record everything for later analysis. The first training rockets launch in rapid sequence, following standard USMC engagement patterns. Ground sensors track impact points, spread, and timing between shots. The data helps refine future firing runs, adjusting release altitude and entry angles. The entire exercise takes place inside a secured perimeter with constant monitoring. Focus shifts to the M197 cannon. Pilots adjust their flight profiles to bring the Viper in closer for controlled gun passes. Even in training mode, the 20mm cannon provides valuable feedback, recoil behavior, shot dispersion, and aiming compensation. The exercise shows how the HMLA-169 blends multiple fire systems into one unified attack pattern. With rockets and cannon data captured, the squadron practices combined effect attacks. One Viper dives for the firing run, while the other maintains overwatch, training for the kind of complex scenarios the squadron may face later. The Venom keeps a wide area view, logging every variation in execution. These drills reinforce teamwork and highlight the unit's ability to operate as a fully integrated force.